is Podcast Theory.
Hello again, fellow podcasters, and welcome to Podcast Theory Live. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024, and I'm your host, Jason Sircone, coming at you once again. We are on the repurposing train this week, and today I'm going to dive a little deeper into what I kicked off yesterday, talking about the value of repurposing your content and the overall, just the sheer expansion of marketing assets that you give to yourself by utilizing your podcast content the right way. Today, I want to zero in on video. And in doing so, I didn't want to do this obvious. Like I could easily just go live and say, like, yeah, use your video. You can cut it up into clips for Reels and Instagrams and like TikToks and put it on YouTube. That's pretty boilerplate at this point, but I am going to spend a quick second here before I dive into some out-of-the-box ways to use your video content, stressing that there is beauty in simplicity. What I mean by that is use your freaking video content. Use it to its fullest extent. Suck as much of that content out as possible and use it for those TikTok videos, for those Instagram Reels, for YouTube Shorts, for Facebook Reels. I guess to differentiate between the two, you've got your short form content for clips and reels, which is usually 60 to 90 seconds. Then you've got your extended short form content. We'll call it that. I don't know if that's the official term for it, but your 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 6, 7, 8 minutes videos that have a segment from your show that you clip off and you put them on YouTube. You can embed them into blog posts. You can use those in a number of different ways. So maximize your content in that capacity. Also very good. Putting your full length podcast recordings on YouTube from the video perspective is a tremendous way to boost your visibility and give your audience another way to consume your podcast and discover your podcast. The idea is that you're giving them as many avenues to discover your content as possible. And we've covered this on the show, but just as a reminder, not everybody in your circle is a podcast listener. This is why repurposing takes on many faces, and it can help you in a lot of ways, because even if people are in your circle of influence and they don't listen to your podcast, if you're giving them content from the podcast on the networks where they do interact with you, you're still accomplishing your goal, right? You're impacting them. You're bringing them closer to the transformation they seek. As they hear your content, whether it be an audio, video, or written format, you're building that trust that is needed for them to take the next step. So utilizing your content in these powerful ways is going to take things to a new level, and video is going to be at the forefront of that repurposing aspect. Now, there are many people that do this in reverse. They're doing the video format and then extracting the audio. That's what I'm doing here with Podcast Theory Live. I'm doing this daily live stream and bringing you great content in a live environment, but then I take this content and I extract it and use the audio portion to put out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and give you a new outlet to enjoy. So you can listen and be impacted by the content of Podcast Theory in the audio format. So you can take it on the go, take it to the gym, take it on a walk with you. So much power in the repurposing side of it. And just again, to touch on that simplistic part, utilizing your video in as many ways as possible is going to give you a whole new layer to all of your podcast discoverability assets, and also give a new layer to how you connect with your audience and give them an opportunity to enjoy what you're putting in front of them. Today's purpose of our get together here on Podcast Theory Live, again, not to cover just those basics, but I wanted to share a few out of the box ways that I feel is something you could try. Now, I am not signing off on all of these with this 100% endorsement and saying, do this and it's going to change everything, because quite honestly, there's only a couple of these that I've dabbled with. But in my opinion, you have this content that you've spent time creating. You can do so much with it. Why not try some things and see if they work? See if they stick to the wall. You never know what may open up a new opportunity for you. And because you've taken time to develop this content and you have it at your disposal, why not maximize the mileage? Get as much out of it as you possibly can and give some of these a try. See what works. If it does, you've got something, and perhaps it can become your signature approach to reaching out to somebody or to making that genuine connection through social media. These are some things that, as I sat down and I noodled with these, again, a couple of them I have done and I have utilized, but some of them I'm thinking, you know what, as I write these down and I plan to bring them to you today, there are things that I want to try in the future because I feel like if it's done the right way, it can have a tremendous impact on the person you're connecting with. And as I covered yesterday and on many episodes of Podcast Theory Live, podcasting is not just about content creation, it's about making connections and establishing strong, meaningful, potentially lucrative relationships. So let's take some time to break down 5 out-of-the-box ways that you can repurpose and use your video podcast content or podcast video content, depending on how you want to read that sentence. So we'll start here with number 1, webinar content. People learn in many different ways, and I've seen many marketers lean into doing live webinars on a number of different platforms. This is a great way to take your podcast content that you're sharing in that free environment and bring it into the world of webinars where you may pull some actual clips and show them during your webinar, or you may take actual content that is extracted from the transcriptions and repurpose those for the actual verbiage that people see as they're viewing your webinar. So many ways to utilize this in a webinar format, and that could be a whole new way of impacting your audience, because with the webinar, it's pretty much known as they attend that they are going to learn something new. And from your standpoint, you're more than likely using your networks across the board, whether it be your website, your blog, your social media, your podcast, your YouTube, your Instagram, whatever your main platform of choice is, you're using those networks to make those connections and provide education, give your audience something to truly sink their teeth into. Adding a webinar into the fold could be another potential outlet that allows you to provide education and make an impact on somebody to the point to where they now follow up with you and they take the next step in the purchasing process. So this content, repurpose it, use those little video clips within your webinar. You can break those down as you go throughout and really, again, maximize the miles. That's what these little initiatives are all about today. Number 2, build blogs around specific clips. Now, we know that SEO is our friend if we use it the right way. And instead of just putting those, instead of just putting those videos up on YouTube, take them and embed them on your website through your blog, and then do a little bit of commentary, or hell, you may even want to pull something straight from the transcription to make life even easier. Totally up to you, but do it in an SEO friendly format. Give the web crawlers more opportunities to discover your podcast and position it for others to discover your podcast. And if they get to your show from a 4 to 5 minute clip that you maybe put another 400 to 500 words around saying, this is why I feel so strongly about this, or here's 5 additional points to what we talked about in this video. However people find your podcast, it's a good thing, because the idea is that you're getting them to the bulk of your content. You want them to figure out who you are, how you can help them, how you're going to deliver a transformation to them. And those short form clips can serve that purpose on YouTube, but take the next step and bring it to your website, and you're going to increase the number of blogs that you're putting out. That's going to stand out. That's going to make the SEO engine say, okay, we want to feature this because more people are potentially finding it. It's all based on keywords. I'm not going to go into a full SEO lesson, but the point I'm driving at is you can take those clips beyond just using them on YouTube or even Vimeo if you're going to that extent, and build some blog posts around them. Again, giving your audience another way to discover and enjoy the content that you're creating. Number 3, clips for social media responses. Now, this is one that I've seen. I haven't done myself, but I have seen this done. It's very interesting. So what this means is let me put a little caveat on this. You don't want to just go around finding conversations so you can spam out a bunch of clips. That's not going to be a good look. But if you find a social media conversation taking place, perhaps it's in a community, in a group, on your page, wherever it may be, if you've got something that's relevant to that conversation, of course you can jump in and be a part of that conversation just by typing out your thoughts. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's encouraged. You should be joining conversations like that as frequently as you can. That's how you make good use of social media, because that's what the social aspect is all about. But if you want to take it a step further, and again, I've seen this in some threads, people have said, I actually just talked about this on my podcast and pulled a clip for my social media. Here it is. So now they're just sharing that raw clip, but it's another way that people can experience that podcast. And it's very on point and extremely topical. So take your clips, you'll have them saved in your phone more than likely, or in your device, or maybe just on your computer. And depending on how you peruse social media, if you see a relevant conversation to a clip that you have, or something you've talked about, that the value you had within your podcast will add to the value of that conversation that's unfolding, throw a clip up there and preface it that you just talked about this on your podcast, and I feel like it's relevant to what's being spoken about here. Again, don't go just firing off random clips into conversations, because that won't be a good look. That's going to be like the guy at a party when people are talking about politics or whatever that goes up and just starts selling their MLM opportunity. You don't want to be that person. Be the one that's adding value to the conversation, and there's no reason why the value from your podcast content can't be what is added to that conversation to take it to a new level. You never know how people might respond to that, and you may get some new connections from that, and that could lead to a number of great opportunities down the road. Something to try. Again, I can't say that I've ever tried that myself, but the more I'm seeing it done, the more I want to dive in that pool and see how it works. So if you do give it a try, please reach out to me and let me know how it goes. Number 4, and this is a big one. I've done this one before, and I think this one's really cool. Clips for direct message outreach. What that means is when you're reaching out to somebody, again, this is not done to spam somebody. You're not just finding somebody brand new and saying, hey, just found your profile. I think it's great. Here's this. Again, that's a bad look. But when you see some conversations breaking out, like I said on the previous point, you may want to share a clip from your show, but maybe you don't want to share it publicly, but you see somebody making a good point that you'd like to make a direct connection. Shoot them a DM and say, hey, I saw you were talking about XYZ. Actually was just talking about this on my podcast as well. Here, I want to share a clip with you just to show you. Again, this isn't a long form 5-10 minute clip. This is like your shorts. This is your reels. These are 60 to 90 seconds, something real quick. It delivers a strong point, and it gives that person an opportunity to get value from you immediately. Now, will everybody respond? Of course not. We know that all outreach on social media does not return 100% to us, right? Like, we have to reach out and make those connections. And this is a genuine way to make some content go an extra mile and bring value to someone's life. Now, again, if you're going around just finding people and randomly spamming them all this content, that won't work. But you can take this and you can actually say, again, thought you might find this useful because I answered your question on my show. That I've done, and that has sparked up some new conversations and thus led to new relationships. Again, looking to get the most miles out of your content possible. And if you're spending time on social media making those genuine connections, this is a great tool that you have at your disposal, and it's content that you've already created. It's just finding a new way to put it into action. And finally, number 5, clips for paid ad campaigns. So we know with social media, it's very ad driven these days. And having a paid marketing campaign, a paid ad strategy in place is an incredibly powerful way to boost the presence, to boost the stats behind your podcast, but ultimately bring more eyes to what you're creating. And that's what it's all about. Now, you may be thinking you may need to break the bank to make this happen, but you don't. And you also don't need to spend a lot of time creating new content because, wait for it, you've already done it with your podcast. This content can be repurposed. Use those videos to grab somebody's attention through social media and have a powerful ad campaign built behind it. So you're sending them to a place where they can continue to build trust in you. Maybe they join your email list. Maybe they check out your offer. There's a number of different ways that you can play with that. But using this content for that purpose is a new way. I shouldn't say a new way. This has been around, but it's a smart way to grow your podcast audience, to bring new eyes and ears to what you're creating. And it's another way to put that content to work for you. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert in this space, but what I do highly recommend you do is look up my friend Megan Shields on she's on Instagram and Facebook for sure under Chime House Media. And I'll make sure I have a link to that in the show notes so you can click and link to Megan directly. She is a Facebook and Instagram advertising dynamo. And the programs that she puts in place has helped so many people grow the visibility of their podcast. I can't recommend Megan's services enough. So I'll make sure I link to Chime House Media for you, but please just look that up and tell her that you heard about her on this podcast. That'll make her feel good to know that I gave her that nice shout out. But Megan's got it going on, and I'm telling you, this is a great way to utilize your content in a powerful way. So thinking about ad campaigns, you're thinking about ways to boost your audience, bring new listeners in, keep them engaged. This video content could go a long way to serving in an ad campaign that you're putting some money into. Not saying you have to break the bank, but you are putting an investment behind your product, your service, whatever it is that you want to drive traffic. You want people coming to your podcast because that's a tremendous trust builder. So maximize this content as much as you possibly can. So there you have it. That is 5 ways that you can think outside the box and repurpose this video content to utilize to grow your show and get powerful results. Again, the simplistic side of things, that basic advice, of course, make clips, make reels. If you're on TikTok, which I am not, I'm there, but I don't use it ever. Put it on TikTok. Wherever you're making that connection with people, use this podcast content to its fullest extent. But also think outside the box. Get the most from it. Use it in any way that you might think could bring you something. And it doesn't hurt to try things out and see what happens. So that is going to do it for today's installment of Podcast Theory Live. I'll be back again tomorrow, and I'm going to keep the theme of repurposing going. Going to dive more into the written side of things. So we're going to talk about some ways that you can take your transcriptions and all of the written content that gets generated from your podcast conversations and how you can utilize that. We'll go inside the box a little bit, but we'll talk about a couple outside the box items as well. So you can get the most from the transcriptions and develop show notes and blog posts and content that does stand out as SEO friendly and delivers you the results that you're looking for. With that, I'm going to sign off on today's live stream / podcast episode of Podcast Theory Live. I'm glad you could be here with me. Until our paths cross again, I'm Jason Sircone. Good talk. I will see you out there.